So let's say you wanted a fancy light sweep effect that highlights the border, a text field, and the border of a shape. It's just a stroke that's being swept along with some light. It's got a nice gradient fall off, and it stops and sort of gives us a tint on the corner on the edges here, right? So how would you build this completely natively in Camtasia without going to another application? Well, it's actually pretty doable. So I'm going to come over here to some clean space, and you can see I've just got two native shapes. This is a text field. I've just got one of the default fonts that we install with Camtasia, and then we've got a shape right here, okay? Just to prove to you that this is a shape, I'm going to come over into my favorites and grab this pink shape, and we're going to replace this guy. And now it's very pinkish, right? So let's change that back to something more muted. We'll go with this, and we're just going to start copying this particular shape, pasting it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change and add some line thickness here. Let's go with 20. I'm going to turn the opacity down so there's no fill with this particular shape. So if we isolated him, you can see just a border there now. Turn it back on. It's pretty subtle because this is a pretty dark shape sitting on top of black. But all right, so we've got just a border right here. I'm going to adjust the color of that, and we're going to come over and make it. Oops, that's the fill shape. That didn't matter. It's this, the stroke, the line thickness that we're going to change. So now we've got this sort of bluish blue steel color here, and I'm just going to duplicate this guy again. Okay, and so now I've got two of these. This guy, I'm going to come in and I'm going to change this color to some green and maybe brighten it up a little bit, right? So very good, very good. All right, so we've got this all kind of set up right here, and then the text thing on top of it. So wait, how am I going to make that light sweep effect? Well, again, I'm going to bring this up again another notch, and we're going to go ahead and this time go back. I'm going to just bring in my giant shape here. Zoom back out on the canvas a little bit. Decrease the size of our timeline. And I'm going to now change this guy to a gradient fill, right? And let's make him black. And Camtasia doesn't have very powerful gradient tools, but you get this effect, right? So now, okay, what we want to do is we want to have sort of the light falling through this thing. So we've got to rotate this. But watch what happens when you rotate a Camtasia shape. Camtasia tries to get tricky with you. It always wants to have that gradient be at the top. So we're going to get around that just by grouping this guy. And so now that that shape is inside of a group, I can rotate it. And I'm going to rotate it to, I don't know, something like this. Let's go in and check our video properties. It's pretty close. Maybe 115 is more along the lines of what I want, right? Okay, and you're still like, well, great. Now I've got this shape that completely hides all three of these layers. So what's going on? How are you going to fix this? Well, this is where the magic of track mattes comes in. And because we have a gradient here that starts at white and falls off completely to black, we know that we want to be in luminosity mode with our track matte. So we're going to come over to this group right here, and we're just going to turn on the luminosity mode of the track matte. Okay, so now you can see, zoom in here, I've got this nice tint along the edge here, and all I do now is just animate this shape across, creating that sweep. So we're going to go ahead and do this, and we're just going to increase the length of time here, maybe about a minute, right about there, and I'm just going to start shifting this guy all the way over. You can see as it moves over, that line is disappearing because we're going in reverse of what will actually happen with the animation. So now I've got it completely off. This object is completely off to this shape that's been grouped. And now as it animates across, you get this effect, right? So let's go some things here, real time, everything aligned, bam, and that creates that effect, right? And if I wanted to do a true sweep, I could carry this all the way through. So it completely moves off. And now if I watch this, it's just a sweep, right? So very simple to do. And now obviously something like this, you probably want to clean things up. So you're going to group it. When you group it, again, remember that it will automatically apply that track matte to the correct track inside the group. And I'm going to turn off this track matte in the main timeline. So now, one other thing that you might do, another sort of very common technique here, compositing technique, is to do this with text. And so in this particular case, I've got just some text and a background, and then a light sweep, which again stays at the end and has a gradient fallout. So we can go in here and we can look at it and just sort of break this down a little bit. So again, this is that same shape, just a simple Camtasia shape. Here's some text, white text, near white text. Here's some more text, green text this time. It's going to be the color of our sweep. And then what we've got here is that same, well, actually in this particular case, this is another technique. If you have CMake that you can use, this is actually a shape with a spotlight applied to it. So let's go ahead and solo this guy and we'll just take a look at it. And you can see it is just a shape. It's a solid color. And then we've created this sort of cone-like cylinder with fall off on either side, right? And that's a spotlight effect that's been applied to it. So if I click on this guy, you notice this will highlight green. You can adjust your spotlight many different ways. You could have more of a forward lean if you wanted to on this kind of stuff. I just was doing this way. Obviously, you've got some options here. I've cranked my brightness, so the brightness of the spotlight. And then you have a focus area, right? So you could increase the focus and fall off way out to the edges, but we wanted something kind of nice and tight like that. And then I've cranked down the opacity of this to 0 so that spotlight is very bright, right? So instead of that grouped shape, now we've just got a shape with a spotlight effect on it. Again, it's pure white falling off to blackness, right? Which makes, we're going to unsolo this. This is the proper use for a Luminosity Track Matte Mode. So same Track Matte Mode, slightly different technique. Again, I've got some animation where I'm kind of cruising up from the bottom left and going to the top here, and we get that sweep effect. So that's how you can build light sweeps completely natively in Camtasia. Hope you enjoy.